Little Benedict Blythe was so bright, his IQ was so off the scale that when he was 5 years old, he was a member of Mensa. He was that clever. But he died of an allergic reaction after he was accidentally exposed to the wrong milk at school. And now his mother's calling for a new law to keep children like him with allergies safe.
Well, an inquest found various factors contributed to Benedict Blythe's death, including a number of areas where the school could have done more to prevent the fatal reaction. We'll speak to Benedict's mum, Helen Blythe, in just a moment. But first, Liz Summers has Benedict's story.
At 5 years old, Benedict Blythe was already studying maths well beyond his years.
I will say 10.5.
Benedict was gorgeous. He was incredibly bright and he was just the kindest little boy.
But on the 1st of December 2021, he left for school and never came home. Benedict had several allergies, including cow's milk protein. He was usually served his own alternative milk, stored in a staff fridge, poured into his cup in the classroom and handed directly to him. But on the day he died, the milk was instead poured in the staff room. After drinking it, he was sick twice and lost consciousness before his adrenaline pen was administered. Benedict later died of anaphylaxis. An inquest last week concluded delays in administering adrenaline, poor contamination control and inadequate sharing of Benedict's allergy plan among staff likely contributed to his death. Now his mother Helen is campaigning for Benedict's law so pupils with allergies are better protected at school.
Well, Helen joins us now alongside Senior Associate Solicitor Angela Bruno. Good morning. Thank you for coming in. Helen, I'm just so sorry about what happened. I mean, we saw there, didn't we, just how bright and beautiful Benedict was. So just start by telling us, you know, for you, I guess he would have meant the world. Describe to us what he was like.
I mean, he was, as I said, kind of absolutely gorgeous, very curious, very kind, great big brother to his little sister Etta, you know, a huge part of the centre of our family, and not having him in our lives now is devastating.
When did you realise he was so clever? I mean, because we all start out as babies and making no sense at all, and then gradually the personality starts to emerge. When did you realise that you had somebody really special here in terms of his IQ?
I think it's a thing you realise over time. I mean, I think the strange thing for us is that obviously for other people, I think being baffled by his IQ is the most noteworthy thing. But for us, I think it was his kindness, some of the other things about his kind of character that we miss most and that I think we kind of cherish most at the time. And yeah, his sort of intelligence and maths probably came a little bit further down the list.
What did he enjoy doing?
He loved trains, so I think there's a clip in that video of him riding on a train, and he would have done that kind of every weekend if he'd had the opportunity. Never got tired of trains. But I think for us, you know, we've talked a lot about his allergies and kind of having allergies and how much that played a role in his life. And I think for us, that's a thing that kind of more and more as a family we've ended up sort of focusing on and talking about, because it is sort of ultimately the reason that we lost him.
Yes.
And then on the day that it happened, you know, you had a plan in place, didn't you, for his allergies, because he had a number of allergies to be dealt with. And what happened then? We saw a bit there in the report, didn't we, about some sort of contamination with the milk. What happened?
So he went off to school. So he started school in the September of that year, and we'd been reassured by the school they had the policies, processes, training in place. It was only after he died that we realised that actually there wasn't a policy in place when he started at school. The plan that we'd provided to the school, they did nothing with. So they just filed it in a bag, but members of staff that provided care for him hadn't even seen it, and they didn't develop anything of their own.
So what exactly went wrong? What happened?
So on that day, we'll probably never know all of the details. We had a jury at the inquest, and their ruling was that there was a mix-up, so that he was probably given cow's milk protein.
So the milk that he took to school with him, you'd prepared for him, would go into the fridge, in the staff room, alongside milk for the other kids?
So we knew that children in the class had individual little cartons of milk.
Right.
So there seemed to be no risk attached to that. They were given their own, he was given his in a cup. It was only a couple of weeks ago when we started the hearing that we found that actually there was some lactose-free milk that was stored, poured, given out at the same time as his. And lactose-free milk is essentially, for a child with cow's milk protein allergy, just as allergenic as a normal milk would be.
How did you get the news that things had gone wrong?
We got a phone call that morning to say it was something that kind of, I think, evolved over the morning. To begin with, we just thought he'd been sick, and he'd...
Because he was sick quite a lot, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had asthma. So a couple of days earlier, he had had a kind of cough in an evening and been sick from his asthma. So being sick through kind of coughing, phlegm, asthma and things wasn't unusual for him.
So when did you realise that things were actually much more serious than that?
I think it was only when my husband got to the school and when I had a call a little bit later in the morning that we realised that this had taken a really serious turn, and ultimately it was the most serious of turns. And we now know that although there were quite a lot of the signs present, so for signs of anaphylaxis, there was a misunderstanding among some of the staff that all of the symptoms had to be there in order to give the allergy pen, and ultimately it was given too late to save his life.
And you only discovered most of what you're describing now last week?
Yeah, it was. I think it's been 3.5 years since he died, and I think we'd have hoped that information would have come through as we were kind of given information over that period. But actually, it has only been in the last couple of weeks, as we've had the hearings, that this has started to come out, and that's been really difficult for us.
So you are calling for changes to be made. You want this to be known as Benedict's law.
Yeah.
What is it that you think would make a difference to stop this happening again?
So the School Allergy Safety Bill, which is the kind of parliamentary name for Benedict's law, was read into the House of Commons last week. And the three really simple components of that are for every school to have a spare allergy pen, so like an EpiPen or a Jex pen, available for any child to use. For there to be staff training, so staff are trained on understanding what allergies are, how to manage them, what the signs of an allergic reaction are and what to do in an emergency. And then also for all schools to have an allergy policy that kind of guides them through the processes and how to keep children safe. These all feel fairly basic in terms of, I think they're things that a lot of parents would assume would be in place already.
Yeah, that isn't already the case.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a surprise for us when we looked, we kind of did a Google after he died to go, well, what did schools have to do? And the surprising fact that actually it's relatively little. There's not much of an expectation on them. I
mean, yet we know that allergies are on the rise. Let's bring in product safety and consumer lawyer Angela now. Angela Bruno, hello. Thanks for being here. What's your take on this?
It's important that the Benedict's law that we're calling for is implemented. Those changes are implemented. No less than 3 children that we know of died of anaphylaxis at school before Benedict's. There are fundamental failures on the government to protect children in school and keep them safe, which is wholly unacceptable. There are a lot of similarities between Benedict's case and those other cases.
Well, you've worked on other cases, haven't you? Can you mention a couple of them, high-profile cases? We
have worked on other cases, but in Benedict's case specifically is in relation to allergy safety in schools. There have been other cases that are around safety in sort of products that are when you go out to consume them. But in relation to Benedict specifically, the other cases as well that we know of, there was no sort of standardised allergy plan in place that was created by the school, updated, audited, disseminated to the staff. The training that they had received also was woefully inadequate to recognise the signs and symptoms of anaphylaxis. There were multiple members of staff that were dealing with those children's care, which made it difficult for them to recognise the signs. And there was a significant delay in administering the adrenaline.
Well, the campaign's one thing, and good luck with that. But in the meantime, we are where we are. And if I was the parent of a child with an allergy and I was watching this interview now, my son or daughter was about to go to school, to be honest, I'd be worried. Yeah. What advice would you give parents in the here and now who are sending a child with allergies to school this morning? Yeah,
I think there's some really simple things that parents can do. So I think the first thing is to say, as our case is the exception, it's not the rule. Kind of we're a really rare case, fortunately, and most children go to school and, don't have a sort of difficult time with allergies. That being said, there's some sort of practical things that they could do. So we developed, and it was shared out by Department for Education, some guidance called the School's Allergy Code, which was the Benedict Blythe Foundation, which we set up. You can find it on their website. But it creates a checklist, so anyone can take it into a school and ask questions and say, can you give me some information about exactly what you have in place? That's a really good idea. So basically what you're saying is, say I was that parent, I should make an appointment to see the headmaster or the headmistress
headmistress and say, can we talk?
Yeah.
Just to dot the I's and cross the T's, to make sure that we're doing everything right.
Well, I think for me as a parent, I believed that there was stuff that went on behind the scenes that I wasn't privy to, but my belief was that they had strong kind of processes and things. I think sometimes cases like ours shake your belief. And I think being able to ask the questions in a kind of really structured way is really helpful. I think if people hear our campaign and think, actually, that's something that I want to support, then they can also send a letter to their MP. They can sign the petition that's out at the moment. There's practical ways that they can kind of support Benedict's law as something that they back as well.
Right. But the advice, as I say, today is go to the school, talk it through. There's no, and OK, and if everything's fine, then great, everything's fine. But at least you'll have done the double check.
Yeah, and I would urge as well any schools, any governors that that kind of oversee those policies in school to have a bit of a check, to look at what their process is like and see if there's more that could be done.
Absolutely, because you just don't want any mistakes to happen, do you? Listen, thank you so much for coming in to talk about it and to, you know, carry on his legacy with this campaign. Thanks very much. Thanks, Angela. And just to say, a spokesperson for Barnet Primary School said there is nothing we take more seriously than the safety of our pupils and have extremely rigorous procedures in place to protect children with allergies. We're in the process of reviewing the inquest's findings to see if there are further learnings to take forward.
Also, the Department of Education told us that it's planning to consult on strengthened allergy guidance for schools later this very year.
If you have been affected by any of the issues we've been discussing, you can always find advice and support at itv.com/helplines.